Sean Diddy Combs is back in a New York courtroom, marking a third attempt to be released on bail in his trafficking case. He's been in jail since his arrest in September.
Bang on the windows. It was so loud you could hear it from blocks away. It was so loud.
It's terrible. The food is terrible. Of course, the inmates are terrible. The guards are terrible. The conditions are terrible. It's just terrible.
Diddy's legal team is scrambling to patch up the holes in his case as the clock ticks toward the trial date in May 2025. Meanwhile, unsettling incidents at New York's notorious Metropolitan Detention Center MDC spark fresh concerns. Reports suggest Diddy might be placed on watch again following what went down during the holiday season.
P. Diddy ringing in the new year with a jailhouse meltdown, at least according to some new reports. All this comes as the disgraced singer spends his first holiday season behind bars, and a judge rules one of his accusers can remain anonymous. By now you're well aware that 55-year-old Sean Combs, also known as P. Diddy, is being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. He's facing federal charges of racketeering conspiracy, trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in profit. The charges came down in September when a grand jury indicted Diddy, half a year after those federal raids were first performed on his homes. Since he was booked, Diddy has made several bids for bail, hoping to get back to one of those homes or an apartment on New York's Upper East Side. Just last month, Diddy's team officially put in its third attempt for his release, asking that he be put on house arrest. The defense originally wanted Diddy to be held on house arrest at his Star Island mansion in Miami, Florida, one of the places that was actually raided way back in March. But Judge Arun Subramanian shot that down pretty quickly, and it was decided if Diddy was granted bail, he'd be staying in New York, specifically on the Upper East Side in a 3-bedroom apartment. That bail would have come with a $50 million price tag and some major restrictions on Diddy's house arrest. Inside the apartment, there would be 2 live-in guards and another guard downstairs. Diddy wouldn't be allowed to access any phones or the internet unless it was used to contact his legal team. And on top of all of that, there would be a vetted list of people approved to visit Diddy, including his legal counsel and, of course, his family. Diddy's attorney, Mark Agnifilo, said there was a 0% chance that Diddy would be violent if he was released, and even called the bail package a, quote, very, very rigorous set of conditions. This part is wild. He said it was even more strict than the MDC jail. But Judge Subramanian, he didn't bite on that, and Diddy's bail was denied for the third time. According to a report from the Daily Mail, that's why Diddy had a breakdown. A person close to him apparently said, quote, spending the holidays behind bars was a nightmare for him.
The grim conditions at MDC are impossible to ignore. For months, Diddy had been housed in a special section of the jail where he enjoyed relative privacy and a few extra perks, but after his third bail attempt was shot down, he was moved to the general population. Now he's surrounded by other inmates, many of whom have eyes fixed on the disgraced music mogul. Here's what the BBC reported about the situation.
And it's that jail we're going to be focusing on today. Abby on Instagram has asked, is it actually as bad as people say it is? I feel like people are hyping it up because P. Diddy is in there. Well, it's also been home to Ghislaine Maxwell and R. Kelly and the fallen king of crypto, Sam Bankman-Fried. So today we're taking you behind the bars of the MDC, asking how Diddy's life's changed inside it and whether it's really as bad as people say. My first guest is Katana Yehuda. Katana, you've served time inside the MDC, so has your brother. You served for fraud, he served for gun possession. You've also protested against the conditions in the jail. But for people who have no concept of what going to jail is like, what is it like when you first go in there?
The first couple of days are heartbreaking because you're taken completely away from family. There's no interaction with anyone except prisoners or the guards, so you have no idea what to expect as far as going through things with the prisoner or the guards, because it can go either way when you first walk through those prison gates. So it's really, even for the toughest person in the world, it's scary because you just don't know what to expect.
Do you have all of your belongings taken away?
Everything, and I went in with extension braids in my hair. They made me sit in the cell and take every braid out of my hair before I was let into population.
I mean, for somebody like who's a billionaire beforehand, somebody like Diddy, it must be completely shocking.
It's actually, I don't think that MDC is for any human being. at all. I mean, I'm not saying that no one belongs, you commit a crime, you have to wait to, your trial and everything else, but I don't think that jail is fit for anyone unless they clean up the conditions.
Lots of prisoners complain about lots of different jails and they say that the conditions are not up to scratch. What, in your opinion, makes the MDC stand out? What makes it worse?
What makes it worse is the food. Mostly everything is stale food, is old food that's donated by other people that they wrap up or they cook for you. Mostly everything they have is full of not roaches and the giant cockroaches. You can smell the mold, you can smell the rot, you can smell the jail that it needs to be rebuilt. It needs help. I don't think anyone should be in that particular jail.
There are lots of different people inside that jail. We know that there's a wing that houses high-profile prisoners. R. Kelly, Ghislaine Maxwell, now P. Diddy's in there. Are you aware of the high-profile prisoners? Do you have any interaction with them?
I don't have any, and we never had interaction with high-profile prisoners at all.
And one of the main reasons that a lot of people know about the Metropolitan Detention Center was because it made headlines in 2019. And one of the issues they had was keeping their prison population warm. And it gets extremely cold in Brooklyn.
Well, in 2019, something went wrong. They had a power outage. They didn't have any water. They didn't have any lights. They didn't have any heat. And the mayor the city council tried to bring over blankets, and the warden wouldn't accept it. They were banging. My brother called me from a cell phone that was not supposed to be there. And he cried. He said, listen, I think I'm gonna die in here. So I panicked. I said, what the hell you mean? You having problems with a prisoner? Do I have to, call a lawyer or what can I do? He said, no, I'm gonna freeze to death. I said, freeze? He said, yeah, we don't have no water. So I called the news station and made a whole big show. And I went down there and I, had to do something about it, not just for my brother, but for anybody. He was telling me that he thought his roommate was going to die because his feet was turning purple. They didn't give my brother his medication. No gas, no lights, no water, no heat for almost 2 weeks.
Just take me back to the moment, because I've seen the videos of you outside protesting. It is extremely impactful. You can hear prisoners shouting down from their cells saying, we are freezing.
I screamed to the inmates. I said, everybody, please be quiet. And they stopped banging. I said, if you are freezing cold, bang on the windows. It was so loud, you could hear it from blocks away. It was so loud. And it was, it was heartbreaking, for me to know that, my brother and other people were going through this.
Yeah, and look, I've spoken to your brother, Jason, about this incident. He shared with me some diary entries that he kept from that time. At one point, he wrote, I have socks on my toilet seat so that when I sit down, it will be warm. I mean, these are the sort of lengths that prisoners were going through.
It was horrible because, my brother's a man's man. So to hear him on the phone trembling like, I don't think I'm going to make it here, let me tell you what's going on, that was scary for me. I couldn't imagine, and at that time, it's funny because at that time, the news was, people were going up, picking up stray dogs, taking them off the streets and taking the bums off the trains and off the streets so they wouldn't freeze to death. But yet and still, you would allow these prisoners in that jail to freeze.
Despite his high-profile status, Diddy's finding out the hard way that no one gets special treatment here. The horrors of MDC have fueled countless chilling stories, including one about an inmate stabbed 44 times, a gruesome tale that only adds to the prison's terrifying reputation.
In April, a group of detainees that prosecutors said were MS-13 gang members in court documents stabbed an inmate 44 times in an attack caught on camera. 2 shivs were recovered from the attack. You see them here. The victim survived. And in the last 3 years alone, 4 inmates have died by... And violence is not the only issue. Accusations of medical neglect, staffing shortages, smuggling of drugs, some allegedly facilitated by employees.
I've had clients describe MDC as hell, as the worst conditions they've been in.
Lance A. Clark is a federal defense attorney who's been there many times.
Now, if the government is going to mandate that they are responsible for your well-being. They have to ensure the safety of your well-being.
The prison has about 1,200 detainees and is the only federal prison in the nation's largest city. The DOJ shut down New York City's other federal jail, the Metropolitan Correctional Center, back in 2021, 2 years after Jeffrey Epstein died by there. A Bureau of Prisons spokesman telling NBC News they, quote, take seriously addressing the staffing and other challenges at MDC Brooklyn, adding the director appointed an urgent action team and they've increased staffing.
The MDC has historically had tremendous problems and the problems aren't resolved.
A former MDC detainee shed light on the unbearable conditions inside, giving the public a glimpse into just how brutal life can be behind those walls.
It's terrible. The food is terrible. Of course, the inmates are terrible. The guards are terrible. The conditions are terrible. It's just terrible.
The inmates that you're surrounded around, just in general, a lot of them are brought up on pretty heavy federal indictments, right? So just in terms of the atmosphere there, it's just certainly one that no one wants to be in.
He's probably not going to have any contact with any other inmates. So for him, it's going to be a little different than for a person like me, where I will go through process and intake, and then they'll assign me a cell, and I'll have a bunkie or a cellmate, and I'll be in population.
For him to be able to get out at this point, it just doesn't look good.
At his third bail hearing, Diddy was seen nervously sipping water, like likely aware of what was coming. As expected, the court denied his bail, sending him right back to his cell.
Disgraced hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs back in court today. The rapper appearing in a beige smock and pants for his pretrial hearing. Federal prosecutors are saying that they were on track to disclose all of the available evidence to the defense by the end of the year. Well, Diddy has been held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn following his arrest in September in a federal trafficking case. Last week, Combs abandoned what was his fourth attempt to get released on bail. Joining me for more on this is ABC News senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katersky. So, Aaron, I know you just essentially left that courtroom. So what do we know about today's hearing?
Well, the prosecutors said they would disclose every piece of evidence that's in their possession by the end of the year. So by December 31st, the defense should have everything. And then the case is going to move toward trial in the spring of next year. Before that, the defense says it wants some clarity from the prosecutors about the scope of Combs's alleged criminal conduct, because right now, defense attorney Mark Agnifilo said the racketeering allegations that Combs faces, the defense believes are a little vague.
His legal team hasn't stopped playing defense, even labeling the Cassie Venture video released last year as a doctored clip supposedly leaked by Diddy's adversaries. But that raises a burning question. If it was all fake, why did Diddy issue a public "I'm sorry" response?
Diddy Combs is back in a New York courtroom, marking a third attempt to be released on bail in his trafficking case. He's been in jail since his arrest in September, and today's hearing is happening as Combs's lawyers are accusing prosecutors of manipulating a disturbing video, one that you've probably seen. It's the one that shows him brutally attacking his then-girlfriend Cassie Ventura in a hotel hallway back in 2016. CNN's Elizabeth Wagmeister is live in Los Angeles. Elizabeth, does the Combs team have a strong case here to make, especially in light of these recent allegations that he's been making calls from behind bars that could be seen to influence maybe witnesses?
Look, Brianna, so Combs's team says that those allegations about those phone calls and tampering with witnesses from behind bars, they say that that is not true. They are denying all of that. There have been filings flying left and right. Today, we've had 2 new filings. Last night, there was an additional filing where they spoke about that video that you just referenced, Brianna, video that our team released. Now, we have not seen that alleged video that prosecutors submitted to the court for these bail proceedings. We don't know what was in them, but Combs's team is saying it's edited, that they left out some of the material, that it's out of order, and they are taking issue with that. Now, I want to read you part of what Combs's team said in that filing, Brianna. They say, quote, "The video is not evidence of a coerced freak-off and trafficking, but rather a sad glimpse into a decade-long consensual relationship between Mr. Combs and Ventura." So they are categorizing this as a sad moment within a consensual relationship. I think what you saw, Brianna, what I saw, what the world has seen now is that video depicts a horrific violent attack against a woman. Now, we do not know what happened behind closed doors. The footage that we have seen occurs in the hallway of that hotel room. But what happens in the hallway of that hotel room, according to the footage that our team obtained and released earlier this year, again, is Combs dragging Ventura, kicking her, throwing a vase towards her, a glass vase towards her. So we will see what the judge has to say. But right now, Combs in a courtroom, the third attempt to get out before his criminal trial. Remember, Brianna, his criminal trial is set for the spring of next year, and he has been denied bail twice. He is trying to get out as he awaits that trial.
Yeah, that may be a tough sell, but we'll see what the judge says. Elizabeth, thank you so much for the report.
The judges have made it clear there's no room for sympathy here. Letting Diddy out on bail could endanger everyone involved, especially his victims. Ironically, all this chaos began because he tried to silence just one unnamed victim that move ended, with him coughing up a jaw-dropping $30 million settlement now catching the sharp eye of federal investigators.
I'm going to tell you the craziest thing about Diddy being locked up right now, facing mandatory minimums, the possibility of life in federal prison. Go read the transcript from the bond hearing and listen to what the defense says they believe is the start of the feds looking into P. Diddy. The defense says, my read of it, many months ago, a woman approaches Diddy and says, hey, this is through lawyers, we're going to be releasing a tell-all book about this woman's experience with Diddy over all the years. And it's going to make you look like a monster. And if you don't want that book to get out there, you can buy the exclusive rights to it for $30 million. Catch and kill this book. Diddy's team says no. Woman comes back with a lawyer. We're going to file a civil lawsuit against you because it's not just stuff that makes for good print. These are civil claims that we can bring and we can win millions of dollars. Diddy's team says, okay, bring the lawsuit. They bring the lawsuit, and within like hours, it's settled for, surprise, surprise, $30 million. After those things happened, a line of people came with stories to get their check too. Hey, if she got 30 mil, what can I get off this guy? I was there, I saw this, I heard that. And that then led to a federal investigation. See, people think, oh, somebody's out to get him. He pissed off the wrong person. It's the alcohol company that, nah. You guys got to understand that there's prosecutors out there who want big cases. They don't fall out of the sky every day. The chance to go after somebody like P. Diddy and put him away for life is like the greatest case you could ever find if you're a prosecutor. And so when a public filing gets released and you read it and you go, wait a second, that law firm is mad thorough. Wait a second, he settled it for 30 million. Wait a second. If all of this is true, then I could probably get some subpoenas. I could probably collect some evidence. I could probably build a case. They start doing it. They raid. A couple months later, they indict. It is very possible that had P. Diddy immediately caught and killed the story by paying the $30 million that he paid eventually anyway, that story never gets public. Nobody ever comes forward, and nobody in the federal government ever bothers to look for the baby.
But let's not act surprised. Did questionable relationships with younger stars have been whispered about in Hollywood? For years, his lawyers have consistently denied the allegations, no matter how damning they've become. And who could forget that infamous baby oil story? Were they going to get them on the trafficking thing? Especially like if he was traveling and doing it, that's where the trafficking come at, that you hiring workers to come and have with your girl. That's crazy. That's some Hollywood that I don't even know, bro. That's crazy. Yeah, that is crazy. But they also claiming that Diddy, he'll give ecstasy to his victims to keep them obedient. Then they have to bring those witnesses in there. That's going to be something hard to prove, unless Lil Rob or Lil C or Cassie state that was something that happened. That's how the prosecutor is going to prove that they got a ton of evidence that they got to try to prove, bro. A lot of that if you read it, it could be circumstantial. You know what I'm saying? But they got to have witness to back it up. You just can't say that that happened based on somebody lawsuit. And what the words that they're saying, they have to have witnesses in there. And I think Puff on lawyers is going to be smart enough to attack that. So what do you think? Will his legal team do the devil's work and pull him out of jail? Let us know in the comments below. And if you like this video, hit that subscribe button so that you never miss out on any new videos. And until then, fam, keep it real. And thanks for watching Celebrity Spill, guys.